We are picking every game in the National Football League this week, Week 10. I'm Chris Hassel. We have Pete Prisco. We subbed out Brady Quinn because we wanted somebody with rings. Bryant McFadden in his stead, the two-time Super Bowl champ. Good to have you here, Bryant.
It's always a pleasure.
Let's start with Thursday night football. Brady won't see that, will he? And
yes, he will.
4-5 Chargers at the 4-4 Raiders. The Raiders 3-1 at home. They've played well in Oakland this season. They win this game, they're right there. You can say the same about the Chargers, who've rebounded the last couple of weeks.
No question. It seems like this will be the second home game for the Oakland Raiders because they've been on the road so much this season. And they're a different ball club right there in the Coliseum, the black hole. So looking at this line, knowing that they're getting a 1.5, Thursday night football, primetime stage, I love Josh Jacobs, rookie running back. He has really improved week in and week out. The defense, they're making timely plays. And Derek Carr has really performed pretty well. You know, outside of that debacle as far as that red zone turnover against Green Bay a few weeks ago, he's playing pretty good football. You see the numbers there with Josh Jacobs. So they're getting a 1.5. I'm rolling with the Raiders.
I'm going to applaud John Gruden for the job he's done. He's exceeded my expectations with this team, but it ends here. They will get that pass rush. We saw it last week against Green Bay.
Is looking pretty good.
With Melvin Ingram back and Joey Bosa getting after the quarterback, the Chargers pass rush will get all over Derek Carr in this game. And I think defensively, the Raiders have issues. And we know the Chargers haven't been as good on offense. But part of that is because of the offensive line. Getting Russell Okung back at left tackle has really helped the offensive line. They will be significantly better in this game. And I think Phillip Rivers will make some plays. And this might be the actual game where Keenan Allen actually looks like Keenan Allen again because he hasn't looked that way.
I don't think he's healthy.
I like the Chargers. I like the Chargers to win this game. It'll be a fun game. I think there'll be a lot of points scored.
Pete on the Chargers to win. Bryant likes the Raiders. You can get it anywhere from 1 to 1.5 points right now. Are the Chargers still in playoff contention? I mean, they win this game. They're 5-5.
Absolutely. And let's be real. Look at the Chiefs. They had the issues without Mahomes. They won last week. That was a big win for them.
Yeah.
But the Chargers play them still twice, right? They have them two more games. They got to play them. So absolutely, they're in division. The loser of this game has problems. The winner of this game is still in the race.
Yeah, this is a very, very important ball game for both teams because this division is the Kansas City Chiefs division to lose with Pat Mahomes eventually returning to the lineup. But we know every year there is a division that will have two teams get into the tournament. And I think the outcome of this ball game will decide if this team can continue to live and have playoff aspirations, whoever wins.
How did the Chargers turn the corner a couple of weeks ago, winning back-to-back games against the NFC North?
Well, I think getting healthy. Getting Melvin Ingram back is big for that defense. It gives them a second bookend. When you can rush with Bosa, and he's phenomenal. He's had a great year. He's been better than his brother, yet everybody talks about his brother. He's better than his brother right now. And he's a phenomenal pass rusher on one side, but when you don't have Melvin Ingram, then you can double him. And now they're moving them on the same side together in a lot of situations and rushing Melvin Ingram on top of the guard, which creates all kinds of problems. So I think that helped. And getting Okung back is big for them on the offensive line. They did lose their center, Mike Pouncey, but the guy who stepped in there, Quisenberry's done a really nice job as the starting center. So I think they're better on the line. They're better as pass rush. They're a better football team.
Pete on the Chargers. Bryant is on the Raiders. Let's move on to the 6-3 Chiefs at the 4-5 Titans. And Pete, I'm going to let you kick this one off. It's a 1 p.m. Eastern Time kick, CBS, because you like the underdog in this game, not just to cover, but to win.
I do. I think they've defeated them 3 straight times, and they've done it with a physical, nasty style. Remember, Derrick Henry can pound the football. And how did the Colts beat the Chiefs when Patrick Mahomes was playing? They pounded the football. They were more physical than they are, and I think that's the style of football you want to play against them. Control the clock, control the tempo, control your physical style of play. And I think that's what is in play here. I think the Titans will run the football with Henry, look for a big game from Derrick Henry, maybe 130, 125 yards, and they pull off the upset.
I disagree, and here's why. Even if Derrick Henry is rolling, they do not have enough firepower to go blow for blow against the Kansas City Chiefs, even if Pat Mahomes is not in the lineup. What we saw last week from Matt Moore, this is a guy that a few months ago was a scout. And now he's jumped into the lineup, but he has the luxury of having so many outstanding skill set players surrounding him that he's looking like a serviceable quarterback.
Serviceable.
Yeah, but that's all you need
Ryan
in
Tannehill's
that
serviceable
offense.
too.
But Ryan
It's
Tannehill,
Miami Dolphin rejects.
Right.
Right? They're both Miami Dolphin rejects.
But Ryan Tannehill does not have Cheetah, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Mecole Hardman, Williams, LaShawn McCoy, Shady McCoy. They have so many outstanding, experienced playmakers in that offense. And because of that, I like Kansas City to cover with or without Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, I just think that this is going to be one of those games where the Titans show who they are as a physical team against a team that, quite frankly, doesn't like the physical style. Let's be honest. The Chiefs are glitz and glamour, and I enjoy watching them.
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes is in there, throw it around with all those fast guys you just mentioned, but they don't like to get smacked in the mouth, and I think the Tennessee Titans will smack him in the mouth here.
If Patrick Mahomes does play, Pete, what do you want to see from him out there?
I want to see his ability to get outside the pocket. I mean, this guy is magnificent when he moves, and he's on the move, and he throws those sidearm chucks down the field. But if he's stuck in the pocket, it's a different style game for him. I still think he's a great player, but he's not going to be as mobile, and that's going to hurt his ability to make plays.
Yeah.
Chiefs are 4-0 on the road this season. They've had some trouble at home, but kind of got off the schneid a little bit last week with that last-second win over the Minnesota Vikings. This is a big game for both these teams, especially for the Titans if they want to stay in the playoff race. Again, 1 p.m. Eastern time on CBS. Let's move on to the 6-2 Bills at the 2-6 Browns. 1 p.m. CBS. The Browns season unraveling. I just can't wait to see what Baker Mayfield looks like after this game.
I want to ask you this though, because you always. What's your dad say about fish?
If it smell, my uncle. If it smell bad, don't eat it. Right?
Something smells here, right?
Yeah.
Look at that
this
line.
Yeah, I was looking at the line also. I'm like, the Browns are giving 3.
Right.
Like, what's up with that?
Something's up here.
Yeah, and just from the lines, all right, based on what we know, the Browns have been very, very bad. The Bills, pretty good, even with question.
They haven't played anybody.
Even with concerns at the quarterback position, but a favorable schedule. But they have beaten the teams they should beat. So they're a good team. But when I see this line, Vegas, they're begging you to take Buffalo. That's what I'm looking. When I see this, they're screaming, take Buffalo, take Buffalo. And we know one thing about Vegas. They win more than they lose. And because of that, I'm going to try to get a little smart. I'm going to go against the grain, taking Cleveland.
To cover the 3.
To cover the 3.
You're not alone. You're not alone in that pick.
This line is too fishy, Chris.
It is fishy.
They're giving 3. What has the Cleveland Browns done the last 3-4 weeks to be deserving of being a favorite and giving 3 to a playoff caliber team?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing, which is why I'm taking Cleveland as well. The one thing when you look at the Buffalo Bills, they're not a big defense, and they've had major problems stopping the run. Teams have run right at them and through them. We saw that when the Eagles went there and beat them. They're having problems stopping the run. I think this is a Nick Chubb game. I think he's going to run all over them. I'm with you. This line stinks. The Bills are a better team. Their defense is better. They're better coached. You can make a debate that Josh Allen is playing better than Baker Mayfield. So why is this line -3? Mm-hmm. Because
and also,
it stinks.
I think it's more so respect the lack thereof with the Buffalo Bills because they're 6-2, but I think many people believe they're the worst 6-2 team in the National Football League.
You know what else?
Their schedule.
You know what else? You say it smells like a fish or whatever. You know what I smell here too?
Yeah,
I smell desperation.
For Cleveland.
When you're around an NFL team and you've been around some, when you smell desperation, those teams play differently. I think Cleveland plays hard and wins this game.
You know what they say, even when a wolf cries, you still can see his teeth.
Right.
I mean, it's deadly. Wild shedding this year.
I have not heard that.
You never heard that?
No. Can the Browns salvage anything this season?
Yeah, they can.
No,
What?
they can't.
What do you mean? If they win,
They're going to be a playoff team?
I'm not saying
I didn't ask that. I said,
but
can
he
they
said
salvage anything?
salvage.
Well, what's salvaging the season?
Finishing above 500 with positive success going towards 2020.
That's not salvaging this season. Everybody thought they were going to be a playoff team and maybe win a division.
That's
not not me either, but that's not salvageable. Can they get to 500? Maybe. Probably finish 7-9.
Well, I think based on the question, if they finish above 500, right, based on what they have
Or even
now,
at 500.
or even at 500, I think that's salvaging their season.
Not based on the talk before the season, based on where they are now.
It might save some jobs, though, would it not? I mean,
that might be the worst
thing.
thing for them.
Really?
Whoa. So you're saying the worst thing to salvage the season and return with the same staff?
Yes. It's not a good staff.
Do you think that they are going to clean house after this season?
I think Freddie Kitchens is in trouble.
Yeah,
I do. If this team finishes 6-10, I think
Okay,
he's in
so
trouble.
to my question, Freddie Kitchens
can salvage something.
Okay.
Yes, Freddie Kitchens.
So some jobs can
If he
be
gets
salvaged.
to 8-8, he salvages his job.
Well, both these guys believe that the Browns are going to win and cover the 3 points at home because it smells just a little bit too fishy. Speaking of smelling, 0-8 Bengals, the last winless team in the National Football League. 1 p.m. Eastern, CBS against the 6-2 Ravens. What is Lamar Jackson going to do to the Bengals?
Man, continue to ramp up his MVP-like campaign. This line is 10. If this line was 12 in the hook, I still would take Baltimore. This is a team that's going in the right direction. They're playing with a lot of confidence, especially on the defensive side. We're seeing what Lamar Jackson is doing, and with a inexperienced quarterback making his first start in Ryan Finley. And I just heard today, A.J. Green, who was slated to play, was going through walk-throughs and said, my ankle was bothering me.
Now he's day-to-day.
Now he's receiving treatment.
Are you hinting that he's jaking it?
I'm not hinting anything, but when your star player is supposed to be getting ready to suit up this Sunday, now he still could play, but going through walkthroughs and, I need treatment, he does not want to be involved with this horrible play they're putting out on the football field.
So you're saying he's jaking it?
I'm not saying he's jaking it. I think he's just being smart.
I don't know.
What do you think, Pete?
I don't have an issue
He may
with
have
it.
looked around and saw Ryan Finley throw passes to the defensive scout team and said, I don't want to be a part of this. Lamar Jackson had 220 total yards, I think it was.
Against New England.
Against New England,
Yep.
and they anointed him as the next greatest thing in the history of the world. 220 total yards. Think about that for a second. That's not a lot of yards. It was a nice performance. It wasn't a great performance. We have a tendency to prop this up.
It was because they won the game, and they wanted it convincing.
Yeah.
But
and also, too, he
said-
had some entertaining-like plays in that 220.
Correct. And he's fun to watch.
Yep.
But, and it's not going to happen here. Eventually, he's going to have to make more plays from that pocket.
I agree.
And it will come. He's a better passer than he's been. In this game, though, let's talk about the other quarterback. Ryan Finley will be making his first start. He was outstanding in the preseason and looked like an NFL quarterback. He was better than what I saw in college coming out. I didn't think he had what he showed in the preseason in him. But he was throwing, I always say it, he's throwing against bouncers and bartenders in the preseason. Now he's throwing against real NFL players. It's a big step up. I'm curious to see how he handles it. He's a cocky kid. From everybody I talked to in the scouting process, they said he was almost arrogant. He believes in himself. He didn't exactly get warm and fuzzy with his teammates at NC State. He's that kind of kid. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in his first start.
Baltimore Ravens are 6-2 right now. Pete Prisco moved them ahead of the New England Patriots in his power rankings, but the bottom line is they're still behind the Patriots in the AFC. This is a look at the standings right now, and the Ravens right there in the running for a first-round bye. How important is that for a team like Baltimore to be at home in the postseason?
It's extremely important because the team you're chasing usually don't lose at home. With a quarterback, second-year quarterback, granted played in the playoffs a year ago, but you can tell he has developed to be a more comfortable quarterback in the pocket, and I think he has improved in throwing the football. But you do not want to go to New England during January football.
You don't want to go anywhere.
You
want to go to
you
Kansas
want
City.
to be home. You want to have a bye,
right?
So that instantly puts you into the second round, but you want everything to come through your house. So every game matters, especially playing against a team you should beat. This is a very, very important game for Baltimore.
But let's not forget, the Steelers are now at 500 and coming fast.
As well, yep.
I mean, if the Steelers are right on their heels, you got to keep winning if you're the Ravens, because you do play them again.
Mm-hmm.
So Bryant likes the Ravens -10.
I do too.
Pete?
I
Okay.
do too. Bengals are the
Ravens
worst team in the
cover
league.
10.
They're terrible.
That would be 0-9. They're the last winless team in the National Football League. Coming up a little bit later, we'll talk about the last perfect team, the San Francisco 49ers, playing on Monday Night Football. Up next, 7-1 Saints against the 1-7 Falcons, but Matt Ryan is expected to return for Atlanta. We have a game between teams separated by 6 games already in the division. In the NFC South, the Saints 7-1, the Falcons 1-7. Matt Ryan is returning this week, Pete. Does it matter? Well, I shouldn't say is. He likely is.
Yeah, and it will matter because he's clearly much better than Matt Schaub, even though Matt Schaub did some good things against Seattle when he played. He threw for over 400 yards in that game. But no, this is a rivalry, and anybody who knows anything about the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints know that both teams hate each other, and the fan bases don't like each other either. They usually travel to each other's city when they play this game. The problem is the Falcons aren't very good on defense. They're awful on defense, while the Saints are very good on defense. It's going to be a tough game for the Atlanta Falcons from that standpoint, but I think the Falcons will score points in this game. I think this will be a higher scoring game than what some people think. 51.5 is the over-under. I think it goes over that, but I think the Saints win it. I think the Falcons cover the number, though. I think it's 13's too many in a rivalry game.
Yeah, that's a large number, and second game with Drew Brees making his return. Alvin Kamara should be back in the lineup, maybe Jared Cook also. So their offense, they're getting healthier. And that defense, especially at home, they're one of the top defenses in the National Football League when they're playing right there in New Orleans. The return of Matt Ryan, second game without Mohamed Sanu, will be the first with Matt Ryan not having Mohamed Sanu. But that 13 points for me is a bit tricky because I think even if the New Orleans Saints gets a huge lead, the back door will be open for a nice cover from the Atlanta Falcons. And because of that, I'll take Atlanta as well. I'm agreeing with Pete because I think the backdoor cover will be right there for Atlanta to sneak in, get some garbage time points. Matt Ryan coming through in the clutch as far as garbage fantasy numbers, and I love because I have him on one of my fantasy teams, and man, I've been living off of garbage fantasy points from Matt Ryan. And the back door will be open. So I don't think the Saints will lock the back door. Backdoor cover for me, I'm taking Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely.
New Orleans just one loss this season. That was the game Drew Brees got hurt in L.A. against the Rams. Teddy Bridgewater came in, could not lead them back in that game, but then was undefeated as a starter. Drew Brees is back, and now the Saints are in position to get a first-round bye. They're still a game behind the 49ers, but San Francisco has a tough game this week against Seattle. So by the end of the week, the Saints may end up on top of the NFC standings. Where do they rank in the NFC right now?
I think they might be the best team, the way they played going into their bye. The Packers, I thought the Packers were, but their loss to the Chargers really opened my eyes to some of their problems, particularly on the offensive line. So right now, Saints are good on both lines. Their offensive line's outstanding, even with a rookie center, and their defensive line has made big strides when you consider that Davenport's starting to rush the passer and they got Rankins back. So I think look at the two lines. They have the best group among them, I think. The 49ers lines are good, too.
Offensively?
Yeah,
especially when they get healthy.
Both tackles. They're supposed to be back this week.
Yeah,
so.
they're supposed to be back this week.
But the Saints are the best team because they have the better quarterback.
I look at it like this, Chris. When you look at the Saints and the 49ers, what team do you believe in more if they had to travel on the road in a very, very difficult atmosphere and win a ball game?
Well, we've seen the Saints do it and Drew Brees do it over the years. We have not seen.
But you'll probably say the 49ers because they can run it and play defense, right?
No. I'll go with the Saints.
Me too.
Because I believe more in Drew Brees. Only seen one start since his injury, but he looked real good. And their defense, like you said, their defense, that front, the secondary, the second level guys offensively, and then you get a healthy Alvin Kamara back. And even without Kamara, Latavius Murray really showed a big time. And I think that was a blessing in disguise because now you have that dual threat backfield like you had years ago with Mark Ingram and now in Alvin Kamara. So you have Latavius Murray as a switch-up guy. So I think the Saints, they're a better team because I believe if they need to go on the road, they will win also.
But both teams have good lines. Both teams can run the ball. But when you look at it, it comes down to a couple different things.
Quarterback.
The Saints have the stars. They have Drew Brees. He's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. They have Michael Thomas. He's better than anything that they have,
Alvin.
even with Emmanuel Sanders there. And they have Kamara, who's better than the run game in San Francisco. So for me, it's all about the Saints' skill people because the lines, both teams have good lines on both sides of the ball.
But for this week, you like the Atlanta Falcons,
Yes.
both of you, to cover the 13
cover the number.
points
Back
on the
door's
road.
open like you
In a
said.
rivalry game. It's wide open. Another game that we're going to hit on right now is the Cardinals at the Bucs. The Cardinals 3-5-1. All three of those wins are against teams under 500. The Bucs 2-6 fit that bill, and they're winless at home 0-3.
Winless at home. But it's been a long, long time since Tampa Bay.
They were on a road.
Yeah.
The schedule is brutal.
Yeah, it has been brutal. They were just, in London, bye week, then you go up to Seattle.
No, then it was Tennessee, then home, then they never played a home game, then went to Seattle. Bruce Arians told me in the summer that the NFL made a mistake with the schedule and admitted it to him. They thought that the game, the guy put the schedule together. Think about this. They thought that the game that was in London was actually in Tampa as a home game. So they played that slate of games there because the NFL made
What, did they make that mistake with the Raiders, too? Because they were away from home for a month and a half as well.
Terrible. It's terrible scheduling on their part. But being back home, B-Mac, this is going to be a fun game. If you're in Tampa this week, go buy a ticket to this. This might be both teams might get into the 40s.
Yeah.
This is going to be one of those.
Should definitely hit.
This is going to go up and down like a track meet.
For me, I'm side with Tampa, and here's why. Todd Bowles' defense didn't look good at all against Russell, but Russell's a quarterback that usually makes any opposing defense, not look the part. They're going to get after Kyler Murray. They're going to pressure him. They're going to collapse the pocket. And the one issue that I have with Arizona, their offense, their red zone offense has been bad. Gonzalez has been a huge playmaker for their team because he's been called upon to attempt so many field goals, and he has been making them. I think they will struggle once again in the red area if they get into the red area. And this is a huge game for Jameis Winston. Jameis needs to show up big time against a defense that has been bad throughout the year, more so from the consistent standpoint. Jameis needs to show up in a huge, big plus for Tampa, naming Ronald Jones the starting running back. I think he is going to do some big things against this defense Sunday. Because of that, I'm taking Tampa.
I'm taking Tampa as well. I think it's
Despite
going to be
those numbers, I mean, look at all those.
The one last week though, he actually played good football last week against Seattle. They could have won that game. He played well enough to win the game.
Look, he plays well every time they're playing against a good team. Look at that, at Seattle, at New Orleans, and at the Rams, and at Carolina.
Yeah,
it's those other games where he's.
They tell him you can't be a hero on every play, and that's been a problem for him his entire career. You can take a check down, you can take a sack, you can throw the ball away, but turning the ball over is a no-no. And I think he's starting to, think that way. He has those two receivers in Evans and Godwin, and they both have big plays. Mike Evans has had over 150 yards receiving in the last 2 games. And you know what? He's going to make it 3 in a row.
Yes,
I think this game is going to be high-scoring, fun to watch, but I'll take the Bucs minus the points.
No. Mike Evans is going to have what?
Over 150 yards receiving.
How?
What do you mean how?
How that's supposed to happen? How will that happen?
What do you mean? You're going to throw him the football?
No. You know who's probably going to be covering him this week?
Oh, I know, Patrick
Your
Peterson.
boy.
Hey, see what Emmanuel Sanders did to Patrick Peterson last week? I know he's your cousin. I love Pat Pete.
I didn't see anything.
I love Pat Pete. I love him, but he wasn't good last week.
Well, he got his big boy pads on this week.
Okay.
But you're not picking with your cousin. You're going with the
he played
Buccaneers
defense. He
to
don't play
cover
offense.
to cover the 4.5. Both of you think that, and
finally
the over.
home. They've been away for like a month and a half.
Jameis plays well. He's making that decision for the Bucs tough to let him go. They have to keep him, I think.
Yeah.
Let him go and let the Bears get him. Chicago is home against the Detroit Lions.
Nice save.
Bears
I
fan.
would take about 15 different quarterbacks in the NFL right now if I'm a Bears fan, which I am. The Bears are 3-5. They've lost 4 in a row. The Lions are under 500, but Matthew Stafford's played pretty well.
Oh, Matthew Stafford has been balling. I mean, this is the best I've seen Matthew Stafford look probably in his career.
He was good. He's put up some amazing numbers for bad football teams in his career, and people always ridicule him and persecute him and say he's a stat guy and everything. He's much better than that.
Yeah, he's much better, and then you look at some of the defenses he's been balling against. These are real tough defenses, and he's been standing in the paint. I've seen nothing from Chicago on the offensive side. And now the defense, they're having issues, and I think mentally they're tuned out because their offense has been so bad. So
let me ask you this, because watching Bears games, the defense is all the talent's still there, but they're not stopping teams. Does that have anything to do with how the offense just doesn't stay on the field? I mean, we rarely talk about time of possession anymore, but the offense just can't stay on the field. Is the defense getting worn down?
That, and also too, you have to factor in the coordinator is no longer there. Vic Fangio.
Yeah.
I mean, the chemistry he had with those players. Chuck Pagano has called a lot of ball games in his professional career on the defensive side. But when you lose a coordinator in which you had so much success with, it's going to take some time for you to recreate that success, and that's what we're seeing. But it does something to the defense when you know your offense will go 3 and out. When you know your quarterback cannot sustain drives. Mentally, it does something because this offense has been struggling since the start of the season, right? But the defense was jumping into the ball game and holding the fort down. Now they're getting worn out mentally and physically, and it's taking a toll on this team. And because of that, I like the Lions to cover.
It's like the 2018 Jaguars. They went to the championship game behind their defense. It was dominant. Then the next year, Blake Bortles couldn't complete passes. The offense couldn't stay in the field. The defense got frustrated. The talent was still there. We saw that late in the season when they shut out Andrew Luck last year. The talent is still there for the Bears. They will rise up in this game. This is one of those games where the Chicago Bears defense is going to play really well and limit Matt Stafford. And on the other side of the ball, the Lions defense, perfect tonic to get the Bears offense cranked up by their standards. And that's not much, but it'll be better than what it's
Get into the 20s?
Yeah.
And trust me, defenses, great defenses that have issues on the offensive end specifically at the quarterback position, they have conversations internally.
Of course.
Like, listen, guys, we can't afford to do anything wrong because if we do, we know our offense, they're not going to bail us out. And when you press and you're trying to force the issue, bad things usually happen. And that's what we're seeing because everybody there is so confused. Like, why is the Bears defense struggling with basically 90% of the roster from a year ago? They're intact right now. It's not just about the play and the new coordinator. It's the offense.
Yep.
It's the offense. It does something to the morale of the team.
I've seen this happen so many times over the years in this league where the offense drains the defense.
Oh, no question.
You never had to go through that because you always had a quarterback.
Yeah.
You were happy.
Oh, and all we ask, even if we had a backup quarterback filling in, don't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
That's it. It's okay. Nothing wrong with punting the football. Their issue in Chicago, they're turning the ball over. Bad turnovers.
9 yards in the first half, too. They're not moving the ball down.
They had 9 yards. Chicago had 9 yards in the first half last week against, who did they play?
I don't remember. The
Bears. Eagles.
Philly.
Yeah.
That was a great game for you to watch.
Yeah,
honestly,
enjoyed it.
I didn't watch it. You guys are split on this game, though. You like the
I like the Bears. He'll take Matt Stafford.
Bryant likes Matthew Stafford and the Detroit
survival
Lions.
game for both.
And you like the Lions to win outright, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, survival game.
All right, let's move on to the battle for New Jersey. It's the Giants and the Jets.
Game
As we all know, it's the Bills are the only team in the state of New York. 2-7 Giants, 1-7 Jets, two of the worst offenses in football, but two of the youngest quarterbacks in the game.
This is a tough one for me. I'm a Daniel Jones fan, and because of that, Saquon Barkley, not knowing the status of Le'Veon Bell, I think he will participate, but I don't think he's 100% healthy. And defensively, I mean, both teams are dealing with injuries, and they have been so inconsistent. But Daniel Jones, he's just a gamer. He's a gamer for me. I mean, they've been losing ball games, but he's giving the Giants fans a reason to believe that the future is bright. No Ingram. Ingram won't participate. That's going to be a big loss as far as pass catchers concerning for me, but I like the Giants.
I like the Giants as well. The Jets, you lost on the road to the Miami Dolphins. And you weren't really in the game. They got handled in that game. It was terrible showing. Sam Darnold looked bad. Their offensive line's bad. The Giants are still competing. That fourth quarter against Dallas, it was 16-15. It was a one-point game. They went into the fourth quarter competing in that game. Cowboys, right now, even though they lost to the Jets, are a much better football team. I think Daniel Jones will outplay Sam Darnold. I'm taking the Giants. There'll be a lot of points in this game, too, because I think both quarterbacks will make plays. Defenses aren't very good.
Over-under is only 43.5.
Which is weird, because the defenses are not very good in this game at all.
Offenses aren't either, though.
Yeah, but I'll take my chances with Jones and Darnold. They'll make some plays. We've seen Darnold make some games where he gets hot and he makes some plays.
Those two quarterbacks, Jones, Darnold, who you riding with long term if you pick one or the other?
Daniel Jones.
Absolutely, me too. I don't think there's a big difference, but I would take Daniel Jones. He showed me a lot this season. He's taken a beating, and I go back to the Lions game. He made a terrible play and threw behind him, and it was picked up and ran in for a touchdown right at the start of the game, and he came back and threw 4 touchdown passes. Mm-hmm. That's a good sign for a young quarterback. That's what I like to see from him.
Okay, that's the pick. It's -2.5 for the New York N. That's the New York team from the NFC, the New York Giants, who are the favorite in this game, and both you guys like the Giants to cover that 2.5. Giants have won 5 of the last 6 in that matchup, by the way. Coming up next, we're going to move to the Sunday afternoon games, the late afternoon games. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers hosting the Panthers after stinking it up against the Chargers last week. Picking the late afternoon games on Sunday with Pete Prisco and Bryant McFadden. I'm Chris Hassel. We got the 5-3 Panthers at the 7-2 Packers. It's a 4:25 Eastern time, and this coming on the heels of the week where the Panthers announced that Cam Newton is out for the season.
Yeah, big time news. I was expecting that. I didn't expect to see Cam return anytime soon to the lineup. Kyle Allen has really exceeded expectations for me, and I think he's done so for the organization as well. Big ball game for both ball clubs because clearly the Panthers, they're right where they need to be as far as trying to get into the tournament. I don't think they catch New Orleans, but you never know what could happen. And this is a huge game for the Green Bay Packers, seeing what they did or did not do last week against the Chargers. So I'm taking Green Bay because when you look at the quarterback matchup, Kyle Allen traveling to Lambeau Field, playing against Aaron Rodgers, a guy who was a big disappointment a week ago. The entire offense was a disappointment. I think Kyle Allen will struggle. Also, talk about disappointments, what about Green Bay's defense? Mike Pettin clearly had to be heated about their production, the lack thereof. So I think this is a big-time bounce-back game for Green Bay. I'm taking Green Bay.
The last time Carolina went out on the road, Kyle Allen threw 3 picks against the 49ers and looked bad. He was awful. Their defense was gashed by the run. The 49ers ran it every which way you can imagine, all different types of runs. I think Green Bay will get back to running the ball a little bit with their, Jones and Williams in this game. But it's about the offensive line. The offensive line struggled last week.
Yes,
and I'm talking about Bakhtiari, who's been one of the best in the league at left tackle, and Bulaga at right tackle. Those guys had major problems. The Panthers can rush the passer, but I think this group rebounds here. They protect the quarterback. Rodgers plays well. I'll take Green Bay as well, minus the 5 points.
But the Packers' defense is not good against the run. I mean, we've seen teams like the Philadelphia Eagles run all over them. What can Christian McCaffrey do against this defense?
I mean, if he gets an opportunity as far as having a favorable matchup in the box, he will find the open hole. That kid is special. I think he should be in the MVP conversation. I don't know why everybody's talking about these quarterbacks. We know it's like a quarterback award, but what he has been doing, he's deserving of being in that conversation. If you do not understand and know where he is as far as running the football and catching the football, he will beat you by himself. He has that type of talent. So to answer your question, know what Christian McCaffrey is. Every time in the huddle, whenever we play against a dynamic offensive player, could be a wide receiver, could be a running back, whoever, we always had a guy in the huddle. He was designated to tell us 22 is on the right side. There go 22. Anytime he moves, we need to know where he is, and that's the same type of recognition you have to give to Christian McCaffrey.
Some of those teams that ran the ball in the Packers were in dime a lot of the time because they were scared of their passing game. This isn't a passing game that really scares you that much, so I don't know necessarily they'll be in a dime defense for much of the game. When they play that dime, they get really little. I mean, the teams just overpower him at the point. Kenny Clark he's played a lot of snaps. He hasn't played as well as he did a year ago at nose for them. So I think there's going to be a different switch in the defensive philosophy this week. I think they'll play many more of their bigger people in this game to try and take away Christian McCaffrey.
Green Bay favored by a nickel. You guys both like the Packers to win
I do.
and cover
Absolutely.
at home. 5-3 Rams at 4-4 Steelers, 4:25 Eastern Time. Bryant, your Steelers are in the thick of things right now.
Yeah,
4-4, they've won 4 out of 5.
This is a big ball game. This is a big ball game for Pittsburgh, clearly a big ball game for the Los Angeles Rams. And I think the Rams are starting to really find out who they are right now. Offensively, Jared Goff, he's not looking like Jared Goff from a year ago, but he started to find that rhythm. Cooper Kupp has been one of the bigger playmakers for this offense. And the defense, I mean, adding Jalen Ramsey wasn't just about adding a dynamic player. What he brings to the team as far as mentally, the swag, the confidence, and I think that is starting to transition throughout the entire defense. So they're giving 3.5, and Pittsburgh has been playing real good football, especially on the defensive side. I'm concerned about the matchup defensively against Sean McVay in this offense. And then when you look at the issues on the offensive side for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mason Rudolph, it's not looking like Mason Rudolph before the concussion. I have my concerns there. And also, too, the health of the running backs for the Steelers. So for me, it's tough for me to say this, but the Rams.
Say it loud. Who are you picking?
The Rams.
He doesn't want to say it. He just does not want to say it.
He said it. It was quiet, but he said Rams.
He whispered it.
Minus 3.5.
I'm picking the other side. I'm taking the Steelers because I like Primanti Brothers sandwiches and you don't. So
No. I like them.
They're okay. They're okay. It's a lot to eat one sandwich. But I think this is one of those games where the Rams don't like to be hit in the mouth. And Aaron Donald, he's a Pittsburgh guy. Remember, went to the University of Pittsburgh.
Homecoming.
He comes home. But he's not big. They're not big. It's a small defense, and they've had problems with teams that want to line up and pound you. Now, you mentioned if Connor's not in there, I don't care who's in there. They're going to run the ball in this game, and they will control the clock. The Rams were starting, you were right, the Rams started to really pick it up on offense, but then the bye came. They were one of those teams that probably didn't want the bye. They were starting to flow on offense. I think this is one of those games where the Steelers' defense shuts down the Rams' run game, and on the other side of the ball, the improvement of the Steelers' offensive line will show up here. They will push the Rams around, and they will run the football. They win this game.
I wouldn't have an issue with that.
All right, Pete has the Steelers winning outright. Bryant is hoping that he's wrong. I think Bryant might change his take here.
He's
if
like
he
the
knew
kid.
that
Yeah,
James Conner
I gotta
was
see
playing.
what
Well, he's like the kid at Christmas. I'm not going to get that present. I'm not going to get that present. Hopefully, and he knows deep down.
Yeah, it's a hedge
again.
bet.
Yeah, he know.
It's a hedge bet.
You'll get the present under the tree. Don't worry about it.
Dolphins on a winning streak.
Yes, sir.
They're looking for 2 in a row. They're at the 5-3. Colts, not sure if Jacoby Brissett's going to be able to play.
Why would he play, by the way?
Probably doesn't need to, right? You're at home.
I don't think he should play. It's about for the Colts. It's about winning. Just however, right?
Right.
And I think they have enough. And they have an experienced backup in Bryant Hoyer who played real good football. Outside of that,
He threw 4 touchdown passes.
Yeah,
3 to his team and 1 to Minka Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, the costly interception to make up. But outside of that, I mean, he did a pretty good job.
He did a good job. He's
against a real good defense.
And he's plenty good enough to win this game.
Yeah, against a good defense. This is a must-win for the Colts because I think the Colts have started to look in their rearview mirror, and they're seeing the Texans playing some real good football. I'm willing to lay 10 points to the Miami Dolphins. I think Bryant Hoyer will continue to play real good football, and this will be a Marlon Mack-like ball game. They got to get back to the basics. You put together this outstanding, physical, gritty offensive line to not be pass blockers. Run the football. I'm willing to lay 10 points.
I'm taking the 10 points. And the reason I'm taking the 10 points is I think Fitzpatrick is playing good football. I think he'll do enough to keep this game interesting for a while. And I also think the Colts will be peeking ahead to next week. They have the Jaguars, a big division game. They're probably going to play with Bryant Hoyer in this game. He'll be fine. I just don't think they're going to blow him out. I think Miami is playing tough and hard. One thing about them, they're losing games. Even when they were losing games, they were playing tough and hard, and that's a Brian Flores characteristic. I think they play tough here. If they hang around, they're not going to win the game, but they'll hang around.
Indianapolis needs to win this game to pull even with the idle Houston Texans at 6-3. This is a game that people will see in South Florida and in Indiana. It's the late game on CBS, but CBS does not have the doubleheader, 4:05 Eastern Time. All right, before the top of the hour, we're going to hit the prime time games, and we have a couple really good ones, including Russell Wilson trying to take down the unbeaten Niners on Monday Night Football. We're picking the prime time games on Sunday night and Monday night with Pete Prisco and Bryant McFadden. I'm Chris Hassel. Let's start with Sunday Night Football. 6-3 Vikings at 5-3 Cowboys. Kirk Cousins prime time game. It seems like we say it every week, Pete.
Well, we haven't said prime time game. We've said big game.
Well, wait a second. He played a primetime game on a Thursday night against the Redskins a couple of weeks ago. But you're right.
And he wasn't
not a good team.
And he was at home.
Yeah,
and he wasn't great in that game. But he's not going to be very good in this one either. It's a primetime game on the road against a good team, which means it's a big game. And look at his records in big games, 6-13. It's just not good enough. I mean, the touchdown-interception ratio isn't bad, at 35-16, but that's a lot of picks to be throwing. I think this is going to be a tough game for them because they're playing consecutive road games.
But he's been playing so well. I mean, I know they lost to the Chiefs. He didn't have, he had that slide at the end of the game where he should have gone head first.
But he also threw 3 touchdown passes and it was 19 of 38 or something like that. 19 of 40.
He's
I forget what the
still
numbers
getting in the
were.
end zone.
Yeah, he's been okay. And I think, but this is the game where if you're that guy, go win this game. If you are the MVP candidate, the $90 million quarterback, you go into Dallas and you win this game. Even though it's consecutive road games, it's kind of offset a little bit by the fact that the Cowboys are playing on a short week. So it kind of offsets that a little bit. But I think this is going to be a tough game, particularly without Adam Thielen. He's not going to be in the lineup.
No question. That offense, they're not the same without Adam Thielen. And losing to Kansas City could ultimately come back to haunt the Minnesota Vikings because you look at the next few ball games, they have some tough opponents, and it starts Sunday night against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys. Number one, they're at home. I think the home field advantage will be huge for Dallas. Number two, I believe in Dak Prescott more so than believing in Kirk Cousins in this matchup. Primetime, Dak Prescott at home, I believe he will be more consistent and he would be more productive. And when you look at the defense for the Minnesota Vikings, I mean, they have the names, but the names are not living up to the billing.
Including one of your buddies from Florida State.
You interrupted me.
He wasn't done yet, Pete.
I wasn't done yet. But yeah, this is a huge game because when you look at, I love comparing the NFC to the Western Conference in the NBA. You have so many competitive teams where there could be a lot of good teams on the outside looking in come playoff time. Mm-hmm. And the Minnesota Vikings, if they're not careful, they could be one because if they lose another ball game, you continue to create separation between yourself and the Green Bay Packers, and then you look at throughout the NFC. That's why last week's game was a huge game for them to lose. So I like the Cowboys giving 3 because I believe Dak Prescott more so than Kirk Cousins. And I think the Cowboys' defense, it's about stopping one man for Minnesota, Dalvin Cook. If you neutralize Dalvin Cook, I think they will have success against Minnesota.
And I think Michael Bennett added something to that defense.
Yeah.
He really did. He adds a little.
Are his pads getting even smaller now?
Yeah, almost non-existent. Almost non-existent. But he really helps that defense. He gives them an edge, an attitude. I think they needed that. I just don't think that Kirk Cousins is, mentioned it's the Western Conference. He isn't LeBron James. He isn't Kawhi Leonard. He isn't any of those guys. They show up in big games. He won't. Dallas Cowboys win, and they cover the number.
Both guys thinking the Dallas Cowboys are going to win and cover the 3. That would send the Vikings to 6-4 and potentially out of playoff position in the NFC. Like Brian said, right now they're holding on to the last playoff position. Let's move on to Monday Night Football. 7-2 Seahawks at 8-0 49ers. Both of these teams off to the best start in a long time. 49ers best start since 1990. Seahawks best start since the glory days of Legion of Boom, the last time they won the Super Bowl, 2013.
Yeah, I mean, 2 competitive teams, 2 teams that I definitely love watching. Getting 6.5. You're giving 6.5 to Russell Wilson.
To the MVP.
To the MVP. Mistake made. I'm taking Seattle. Russell Wilson is a bad man playing against elite defenses, still putting up quality numbers. And their running backs, that offensive line, they have really been impressive. I mean, the job they're doing, protecting Russell and running the football with Penny and Carson. Carson just needs to hold on to football. And there's a good chance we might see Josh Gordon in this ball game. Lockett, my goodness, Lockett is a bad man. He's like a little joystick player for that offense. He just does it all. Then you got the big body guy and DK Metcalf. If Gordon participates, I'd love to see exactly how they use him. And their defense in this matchup, I think their defense will hold. They will lock in to stopping the running attack from San Francisco. And it's not just about stopping them. If you can just make timely plays, if you win that battle 50-50, that's more than enough for Russell to be able to find success against this outstanding San Francisco 49ers defense. When you're talking about the MVP getting almost 7 points, I got to take Seattle.
It looks funny, right? 6.5 points looks way funny, too funny to me. So I'm going to lean to the 49ers here, and here's why. I think the Seattle defense is a major issue this year. Everybody in the last couple weeks who's played them has done whatever they wanted to them. And I think the 49ers getting their tackles back. What's the one thing you want when you face a fast defense that's not big? You want to either go right at them, or they're so fast and they run to the football, you use that zone scheme and throw back against the grain and use that fullback sneaking them out of the backfield. You get the tight end Kittle on, when you boot them out. I think there's going to be big opportunities for big plays against them. I don't love the San Francisco passing game, but I think they'll be sneaky good in this game because they'll be able to run the ball. I do think Wilson will get his too. This is going to be another one of those games where I think you're going to see more points than people anticipate. Yeah. But I'm laying the 6.5 with the 49ers.
That's going to be a good game.
It is
going to feel like a
interesting.
playoff game.
Seattle is getting 6 points on the road. They're 4-0 away from home. You can get it at 6.5 some places. Seattle's won 12 of the last 14 meetings between these two teams. And you mentioned it. Russell Wilson might be the MVP in the National Football League right now. I mean, he's up there among the greatest as far as the odds go, and he actually is tied with Lamar Jackson, 3-1 odds. And Pete, you're picking against him. Is it just because it smells funny?
No, because I think the 49ers are going to run the football. I'm not a big believer in the Seattle defense at all. Their calling card over the years has been run the ball and play good defense. Wilson's put up great numbers because he's been forced to. It's a good thing for him. I love the way they're playing him on offense now. The only guy that can hold down Russell Wilson and stop Russell Wilson might not be the 49ers. It might be Schottenheimer because at some point he's going to try and run the ball again. And this isn't the spot to do that because I think the 49ers are really good up front. We talk about Bosa. We talk about Buckner. Armstead's been a force in the middle of that defense. And then the linebackers playing good as well. So I just think
it's going to be. Remember they lost with Quan Alexander?
Yes.
That's a big loss.
It is
in
a big
this
loss.
type of matchup. That's going to be a huge loss.
Rams and Panthers, those are the only two teams with a winning record that the 49ers have beaten on the way to this 8-0 start. Pete, how far do you think they go, the 49ers, quickly? Can they take this to double digits? You got them at 9-0 after this.
Yeah, I think they'll get to 10 or 11, but they'll lose a game. They'll lose a game. They're not that good. They will lose a game.
Never thought we'd have that conversation, but Bryant thinks it could come to an end this week. You like Seattle +6,
Yes,
6.5?
You like them to win the game?
You like them to win outright?
Yes.
You got Seattle winning the game?
Yes,
Oh, I
curly
like
hair
it.
Russell Wilson.
Okay. All right.
Curly
Money
MVP,
line
MVP,
on the
MVP.
49ers, and that would really tighten things up
Yes,
considerably in that division, and Seattle would have the head-to-head tiebreaker at this point. All right, the byes this week, some good teams. Patriots, Texans, Jags, Eagles, Broncos, Redskins. Some good and a few bad as well. Players to watch this week. We start with Pete Prisco. Your player to watch.
You know where
is
I'm going. I'm
Mr.
going to
Prime Time.
I'm going
Mr.
to
Big
prime
Game.
time Dallas, and show me Kirk Cousins. A couple weeks ago, I called you out and you played great. Show me again. I want to see you in a big game. Go to Dallas and win and throw for 300 yards and at least 2 touchdowns. If you do that, big game Kirk will be a thing of the past. If you don't, it lives on.
Well, my player to watch, I made this pick earlier today before I got wind of the news, was A.J. Green. And he's no longer well, he might not participate.
He might.
But if he does participate, I would love to see exactly what he has because I think he's a top-tier player. But I don't think he will play. Just my personal opinion because why?
You think he's jaking it?
I'm not saying that. I just, I think he's – I don't think
Why isn't he playing then?
Just, I don't know. He don't really want to play in the schoolyard the rest of the kids. He just want to be in class.
I'll be interested to see Ryan Finley in that game as well, see if he can be the quarterback of the future for the Bengals or if they end up getting the first overall pick if they go to a guy like Tua.
Chris, your player every week has to be Mitch Trubisky. No
well,
matter what.
I'm tired of
No,
watching
it has to be.
Mitch Trubisky.
It's got because we want to see the venom come out.
But I know that he's
nastiness.
terrible. I don't need to see anything more from him. I want to
go.
see Jimmy Garoppolo against a defense that he should be able to throw around. Jimmy Garoppolo, can the 49ers stay perfect? Can they make yet another statement and stay undefeated against the Seahawks defense? I don't think they do it. I think Seattle +6.
Is that the one concern with the 49ers, the quarterback?
But he was good last week against Arizona.
He's been good.
But that's Arizona. Everybody's
see.
good against
Yeah,
Arizona.
I know.
We'll see against Seattle. For
Mr.
Pete
Trubisky's
Prisco
your
and
guy.
Bryant McFadden, I'm Chris Hassel. More HQ coming up top of the hour.